Hey everybody, welcome to Ref Time, powered by RTS and produced by Coraggio Media. I'm Tanya.
And I'm Crane. We'll be covering rules, plays, points of emphasis, and all things official. And today we're going to be having our special guest, our daughter, Sydney Hearn. How you doing, Sid?
Hi, I'm good.
Welcome to the
Glad
show.
to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So who is the most fun official you can think of in Fort Wayne?
Mitch.
Okay, Mitch's pretty fun. Even funner than Mitch.
Oh, James.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And every time I'm officiating, I think about him. Not every time, but I think about him when I'm interacting with the crowd or with coaches because he doesn't seem to have a lot of conflicts. Why not? Why does he not have a lot of conflicts?
Because he smiles at everything.
Exactly.
Smiles the entire time, and
Yeah.
a lot of people know his actual profession, so they don't want to mess with him.
Right.
I don't have that going for me. You're right.
Yeah.
No, you don't have
But-
that going for you.
Yeah.
However, if you ask the volleyball community, you would be the funnest
Yeah,
official.
you would be the funnest.
Well, that's only because he doesn't do volleyball. If he does volleyball, I'm
Right.
going to lose that
Yeah,
He
you're
discussion.
gonna
does
lose that
football,
too.
so
He does
took
football.
that one.
He
But
does
I-
football,
But
he
I
does
think
baseball.
about him
Yeah.
because he is a police officer, but at the same time, he doesn't have to emphasize that. He's
Yeah.
just out there. And I asked him one time, I said, James, how is it that you always have a good time, you got a smile on your face? He said, Brother Crane, I'm going to tell you something. He goes, man, this stuff out here is nothing compared to the stuff I see every day. He goes, I come here, and this is just a way for me to get away from the craziness that's out there with criminals and people every day. He says, when I come here, he said, these coaches lose their mind, these fans lose their mind. I just look at them, and I'm like, y'all have no idea. He said, I can't do that. I can't help but smile. And I never forgot that. And I thought, you know what? More people need to have that attitude because these are kids out here. They're working hard. They're working as hard as they can to perform up to whatever ability they're looking to achieve, whether it's they want to impress their parents or their coach or they just want to impress themselves. They're working hard, but then we come out here as officials, and some of us come out like, I had a long day of work. I just want to get done and go home. And that's what that coach said to me about that official I was working with. She goes, I just wish officials wouldn't come out here and had his attitude. And I said, what do you mean had his attitude? She goes, a lot of them like him, they just come out here and it's like they're just doing it for the money. They
It's
just
a
want to get
burden.
done.
Yeah.
And that, being a younger official, how is that to work with? If you have a partner like that.
It is,
Share your mind, Sydney.
it's thrilling. No, it's just, it really takes the game down, and then on top of it, it puts a lot more on your partner, too, because then they have to socialize with both teams and make sure that everybody's not immediately coming out with the mentality that the refs are out to get them because the one ref has such a bad attitude.
Right.
And it always makes it harder on the other person who is more social and more willing to get along with the kids and the coaches and such, because then I have to make up for that lack of inability to communicate.
And lack of enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm, exercise,
Yeah.
movement.
I was watching you ref that basketball game yesterday, and you were working with a ref who we will not mention their name, and they were moving, let's just say they were moving at breakneck sloth speed. And you were sprinting circles around that person. And I was watching this, and I glanced, I was like, wow, she's getting up down the court. Anyway, she's getting up down the court.
At one point,
Yeah.
I was walking by, and the play had gone to the other end of the court, and this official was still at this end of the court, and I walked by and I
many
said,
times.
the game's going on down there. I said, you're supposed to be down there.
What did they say?
Oh, he just looked at me. I was like, get down the court. And I just kept walking, so.
But
Well, that particular person proceeded to inform me that they had medical
yeah, and I was going to say,
relations. So, that's understandable. But at the
Right.
same time,
Yeah.
okay, why are you out on
No,
the court?
but that's what I was going to say now. Check it out. We are really, really, really down on officials nationwide right now.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
But no, you can't just say.
But it
But
wasn't even, he wasn't they were not initially scheduled. They got scheduled last minute only because they
didn't
hit
have
up
any
the
bodies.
assigner,
Right.
and the assigner said, oh, I had you blocked.
Oh, blocked. Why? He didn't want to use him?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I can't.
Well,
I mean, I don't know any
He
answers.
was desperate this weekend.
On-
though. The
on that
assignment was
note,
very.
yes.
Oh yeah, he begged us to come out.
Yeah.
He really did. Now, I mean, he really. That's what Mom said. She's like, he's begging
I don't
us.
understand why he was so desperate. It wasn't even a big tournament.
You can't get a lot of officials right now. Just can't find them.
But I mean, he's been getting people every week. He hasn't really been having a lot of
he's
trouble.
No.
usually
He's-
sending out a lot of
yeah.
texts to get people. I'm telling you, the
Very
official
true.
pool right now, nationwide, is really, really low.
Right.
Well, the willingness to do AAU with the lack of control and security in itself is also low. I mean, I'm not going to go out there and get punched in the face for $25.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because during one of our games yesterday, I went over and I was talking to the crowd, which you're not supposed to do, but I always do. So I go over and talk to the
because
crowd.
it's AAU.
Well, I go over there and I see Cleveland, and there's another young man. I've been trying to recruit Cleveland for a long time.
Right.
And there's another young man that's, well, it's okay. I mean, it's okay because he's not an official, but I was,
Cleveland, Ohio.
yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to recruit him, and I'm put it out there. I'm trying to get it, but he's really dedicated to coaching, and I respect that. If a person says, I really appreciate that, Crane, but I'm really dedicated to this, I'm like, cool, you participating in the youth sports. He had a young man sitting next to him. I can't remember his name, but I looked at him. I said, we need to get you in stripes. And he goes, oh, no, not me. I said, why not? He goes, I was an official. I said, really? He goes, yeah, up until last year. I said, well, why'd you stop? He goes, man, I'll be honest with you. AAU burned me out. And I said, yeah, I hear that a lot. He goes, the craziness of people nowadays, he goes, man, even as a coach, I don't even want to be a coach in AAU anymore because people are so crazy anymore.
Right.
Now this guy's telling me he stepped away from officiating because of the behavior of adults, which is a topic we got to get on one day to talk about.
But it's not just the
behavior.
adult behavior.
I mean, it's not. It's the kids.
It's the kids.
But then it's
because-
also the fact that the kids were raised by
They
those
reflect
crazy
the
adults.
adults,
Yes.
right?
But then we've also got administration who sides with those crazy people because they want their money. So then you've got 3 versus 1. Well, at that point, I'm just going to leave. I mean, you know?
We were talking about it yesterday in our game. We had a game, what was that? The 5th graders, boys? I think it was 5th graders. I think it was 5th or 6th grade.
I'm
pretty
little
sure it was-
boys, but then we had like 8th grade boys.
I know, but I think it was the younger ones we were talking about when those two teams were going. I mean, it was a good game in terms of score being close, but it wasn't a great game.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at the crowd was really into it, the coaches were into it, but I told her, I said, I don't like doing this anymore because the coaches don't teach how to play the game.
Nope.
All they teach is run up and down the court and try to do something fancy and score. They don't teach them how to play defense. They don't teach them how to do a simple pick and roll. They don't teach them how to play the game and keep your mouth shut. All these kids are running down court and everything comes out of their mouth. And one. I'm like, you're 5th grade and you're screaming and one? And then a little kid, I had to tell him, he came down and he got frustrated because he thinks he has game and everybody's telling him he's got game. And he came down, he came through the middle. The ball got hit. He got bumped a little bit. I didn't think it was enough to blow the whistle. And then he ended up on the floor and the ball went off his knee out of bounds and I called the other way. And he got up, man, and I heard him say the F word. But I did a double take and I was like, did he just? I think he did. So next time he comes down court, and he says something because he thought he got fouled. And there's another turnover. And I looked at him, I said, come here. He goes, what? I said, come here. I said, let me explain something to you. I want you to play the game. That's all I want you to do. If I hear anything else come out of your mouth, I'm going to tech you. I'm going to set you down. Am I clear? I said, am I clear? Yeah. And I'm looking at these kids like, are you serious? You really think you're NBA material that you can come out here and talk any way you want to? You out of your mind.
Well, I
You're
don't think they
5th
should
grade.
allow the NBA players to talk any way they want to.
I
Ain't
agree.
that
And
the
these kids are
truth?
emulating them.
Yeah.
They're emulating. And as officials, we're kind of like, you want us to govern the game, but at the same time, you as a coach and a fan, and a parent, you're going to let your kid talk and act any way they want to on the court.
Well, and then you've got idiot coaches who in AAU are not coaches because they're a parent or a sign-up
They
tag
never
along.
learned how to coach.
Never
Right.
learned anything about the sport in itself. They just know what they've seen on the NBA level. And then I had a game where I called a foul on a player, and then the coach goes, what? From the opposite end of the court, I can hear him clear as day on the other end. What? That's not a foul. That was terrible. Great job. It's okay. Keep
They do
doing
that
what
a
you're
lot.
doing. Just do the same thing.
They
And
do
I
that
looked
a
at him
lot.
and I
Keep
said, if
doing
you
it.
do the same thing, I will call it again.
Mhm.
And he was like, yes, ma'am, and continued on. I mean, you know, and I'm looking at this man like, you're teaching this boy to literally go against authority, and yet if it happened again, I would call a foul. Like, it doesn't change the situation.
Right. That amazes me that coaches will sit there and say, you know, good job.
Good
and I'm looking at them
job,
going, but I just called it
That
against
wasn't a
your
foul.
team.
Good job.
Right.
Keep doing the same thing.
So now you're going to do it
Obviously,
again.
it was a foul from my perspective. The one who has the whistle.
So to me, the most intelligent thing, you know, not to ramp on the coaches all the time, but to me, the most intelligent thing to do in a coach's spot would be to communicate with the official as to what the kid is doing that's going against what he's coaching him. Our call is going against. So to me, that's where adults need to come together. The coaches and the officials need to come together. And remember, the development here is about the child. I mean, it's all about developing the child in the area of sports. I think sports is really important. I think none of us would be where we are in life if it weren't for sports. Yeah. And I think back to some of the coaches I had. I remember one of them. He told me one time, I was a short, fat kid. Y'all knew that. And this kid, I came into this gym. I remember it was an old Fort YMCA. I walked in, and I didn't have a clue. My parents took me. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I walked in. This coach, who's very well known in the city, he's passed away now. He ended up telling me, because I knew I wasn't a hard worker. He said, "Boy, what's your name?" Crane. "What's your last name?" Hearn. "Boy, your name is Hearn." "Yeah." "Hearn, you weak as water. You weak as water, boy. You weak as water." I never forgot that. And if I was to say that to the guy, his son, who's a very, very well-known professional basketball player, he'd know exactly, because last time I told him, I said, "Man, your daddy used to tell me I was weak as water." He just bust out laughing. He said that to people he didn't think were very good. And he looks at, he said, "Oh, my bad." I said, "No, I wasn't very good." I learned how to play the game later. But that cracks me up. "Boy, you weak as what?" I never forgot that. But it's stuck in my head.
Say that to a kid today.
Yeah. And it's stuck in my head as, now water scientifically is not very weak. But I knew what he was trying to say.
Right.
And it's stuck in my head to make me realize I needed to get my butt in better shape and learn how to play the game competitively. And I don't take that as a bad thing. I take it now as, well, you know what's interesting? If I had not worked hard and become the ball player that I knew that I did become, I never would have. I would have learned negatively from that. Mm-hmm. But I didn't. I learned positively from it, fortunately, and that's what made you a good ball player, and your brother a good ball player, and made you love sports. And a lot of kids, in my opinion, they get negative people in their lives because this guy said that to me because that was my first exposure to him. But he also, I could tell, he loved kids enough to help them develop, and he reached for what he thought was going to reach inside and make me try, you know.
And it worked.
It worked. It worked. But I hear these coaches nowadays. I don't even want to call them coaches. These AAU people.
Right.
They're just trying to live vicariously through the kids. And
I mean, half of them are in their 20s. They're my age. They're people I played with. And I'm looking at them like, you just got out of college. There's no way you know how to coach.
Right.
You have no experience whatsoever, which it's not always a bad thing to learn, but it's also they're not trying to learn. They're just out there because they get paid $20 to be there.
Yeah. So then that takes me into this question. What would you guys say is the psychology behind coaching? Because we're officials. So when you say they're not a coach, what does that mean?
Well, in AAU, a lot of them, again, like she said, are parents that are generally just out there because they want their kid to be on a team and they want their kid to get playing time.
Playing time, yep.
And so those types of coaches are very difficult to generally deal with because they're literally out there just for their kid's benefit. Mm-hmm.
But there's also those ones on steroids who watch the NBA and think that they're professionals, want their kids to play and think that their kids are Steph Curry and LeBron James. Yeah. So then they're screaming the whole time about their kid getting fouled
when they
know absolutely
just tripped
nothing
over the line
about the sport, and they tripped over absolutely nothing. The line was 2 feet in front of them.
So
wow.
So those are the coaches that make AAU very difficult. But then when you have, like, when we do tournaments and we know that, okay, this is an actual coach, like, you can tell. They, you know, if I tell them, okay, you have a technical for whatever reason, you now have the seatbelt rule, and they're like, okay, and they sit down. Well, when I have another coach, if they get a technical and they're looking at me like, what do you mean I have to sit down? That's not a rule.
I have to control myself from not laughing when I hear coaches say that.
You're telling me.
I look at them like, do you know any of the rules?
I had that when I
or
was
their
at a
assistant.
camp.
Their assistant gets the technical.
Yeah.
Well, why do I have to sit down? He got
the
because
tech.
you're in control of him, and we told you to get him under control. So
I had that at a camp that I went to for the NBA. I had a coach that we initially, he was the assistant. One of my partners teched him. We were all about to tech him, and it was directed at one of my partners, so my partner turned around and teched him. My partner and I were like grabbing our whistles, bringing it to our mouth as he like whipped around real quick and teched him. And then came out and I ended up teching him again and ejecting him. Once again, he was the assistant, but at the time, so we all thought he was the assistant. Come to find out, he was the head coach. The assistant was the one standing the whole time. So it was on all of us for not figuring out who the head coach was at the beginning of the game, which really caused us some trouble after the game with our clinicians. But
now, let me ask you something though. The rules you guys were playing under, you were playing under NBA rules?
So we were doing men's mechanics, but no. We were doing men's mechanics with high school rules because we were repping
high school rules.
Yeah, we were repping a high school tournament.
Now, see, that's interesting because a lot of people that are in coaching positions, when they go into different environments, they don't realize what rules they're supposed to be governed under.
Right. Yep.
And when we go to different tournaments, we have to what? We go to the table and find out what rules are you using.
Right.
And then these so-called coaches come in and they want to act a certain way. Now, coach, we're playing under high school rules. I'm not a high school coach. We're playing under high school rules. That's the rules. That's great, coach. The rules are right there on the table.
Yep.
And they go over and look at them. Man, this is crap. Coach, crap is not a word you're supposed to use out here because we're playing under high school rules.
Right.
It cracks me up when people come in the door. And that's another thing about all these different tournaments. You guys know where I'm going with that, with the rules. Yep. They say they're playing under these rules, but they're not really those rules. It's kind of modified-ish. Whether they're men's college or NBA or TBL or high school.
Well, yeah, I love the ones that are under NBA rules, but yet they don't have the NBA staff. So the table, the shot clock keeper, the score, they don't have all those things. Or they barely have a good shot clock.
Right.
And the court is not an NBA court.
Right.
There's no arc.
Pay.
It's short.
And then there's
pay
no,
for the
what they call it,
officials.
the LED light around the backboard.
There's
It's
no
supposed to
LED
go off.
Yeah.
That's an NBA thing.
But yet they want us to go out there and do NBA rules, and it's like,
for
give me the
non-NBA
NBA money.
players.
They don't even want to try to touch the NBA pay. Because, I mean,
No.
I mean, they probably
Nowhere
don't even want to kind of touch the pay that you're getting with the TBL, which
Really,
is
though.
what, minimum
$150
a game.
Yeah.
In the local arena, these people, you tell them it's $150, they look at you and go, do you have somebody else that can come ref for a lot less, for about $90 less?
Yeah.
Really, though.
Yeah, it's really interesting. But I don't want to belabor the point, but we want to go talk a little bit about the fun side of officiating. We don't just want to stay on the negative side. We talk about the fun side. So, what do you ladies find fun about officiating?
Well, I like officiating, because I officiate both basketball and volleyball.
And wheelchair basketball.
And wheelchair basketball as of 2 weeks ago. That was pretty awesome.
It was.
But it's about the kids or the players, because the wheelchair basketball that we did was adult. But
I have to interject. The wheelchair basketball, I want you to talk about that compared to able-bodied basketball and how you, like we were just talking about, how people treat us as officials.
Oh, that was night and day. I mean, they were so respectful for the most part out there. I had one guy that he didn't like that I didn't call something because it was really my first time and I had no idea that was a rule. So I didn't call it and I was just like, okay, well, whatever. And so then at halftime he said, he wanted to come up and talk about it. And
was this the one who says he's a
He's an official.
He's an official. And he's an able-bodied official. He's not in a chair permanently.
Correct.
He was just playing because he wanted to compete. And he's
pretty
good.
Actually, they needed him because they didn't have enough players.
And he's pretty good.
Yeah, he does he's incredible.
I've been in a wheelchair. It ain't easy, but go ahead.
No. But, at one point, and I didn't know he was an official. It really was irrelevant to me, because to me.
Just say it. You didn't care.
I didn't care because you're a player. When you're on the court and you're playing, you're not an official. You're a player.
This is supposed to be the fun part, remember?
So, but he goes and he's fussing about the fact I didn't make this call, and he's like, "Well, look, sweetheart." I was, "Whoa, hold up."
Oh, time out. You just called her sweetheart. Oh.
I was like, "I am not your sweetheart."
When I'm rough with her, somebody calls her sweetheart or dearie, I'm going, let me just walk away because somebody's getting ready to get teched and thrown up out of here.
I wasn't going to tech him. I just looked at him. I was like, first of all, I'm not your sweetheart.
Did you say that to him?
Yes, I did.
100%.
And 100% I did.
So when they call you sweetheart, how do you handle it?
I turn and I look at
Why
him.
did you just you looked at me like you were going to smack me? I'm asking a question. Really? Seriously? I'm just asking a question. How do you respond when a male-dominated industry like coaching and officiating, and they refer to you as sweetheart?
Usually they like to the sweetheart along with the hand gently placed on the back. And
do they keep the hand up high on the back? Or do
they like to go my mid back, like low.
They want to feel
back.
the sweat.
Oh. Yeah.
That's just nasty.
Yeah. And I always just twist out of it, and I'm like, "Sir, we're having a professional conversation. I am not your sweetheart."
That's actually what you didn't. No, you don't really say that. You really say that?
Yeah, I've said that in the TBL before. I had a coach come up to me and he called me sweetheart, and I said, "Sir, we're having a professional conversation. I am not your sweetheart."
Ooh, I gotta give you some of that too. Dang, that's pretty good.
Right?
Did you practice that before the game?
Actually, no.
That's pretty good.
It very much upset me, but I knew I couldn't get mad, so I had to respectfully.
So on the inside, you were boiling. On the outside,
yeah, 100%.
you were so
when I call
professional.
people sir, it's not always the most respectful thing.
Has she called me sir before?
Oh, absolutely.
It has to be the first word out so that I know I began the sentence respectfully.
Have you called me sir before?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
But in this gentleman's defense, he quickly apologized, backed out of that conversation real quick, and we went on. He finished playing the game. It was kind of funny though because I had him on the last game, so they were going for third and fourth place. And prior to that game, one of the other officials fouled him out because the other official didn't like his attitude, and he kind of gave him, from my understanding, a couple of cheap fouls. Now, whether they were fouls, they weren't fouls, I don't know.
Now,
it's
one thing
irrelevant.
I can say, that dude does fouls a lot.
He does fouls.
Oh, so he's one of the ones who doesn't think he fouls.
Oh, no.
No. He knows he's fouling.
Oh, yeah.
But then he tries to weasel out of it. He's like, what? And I'm like, dude, you just hammered his chair.
So the last game.
It was a little hammer.
So this last game of the day, he goes and he's trying. They're getting ready to do a fast break, and so he's got the ball and he's getting ready to go, and he turns and he's like, boom, and he just rams into the defender, and I was like, oh no, boop, we got an offensive foul, and he turns around, he goes, now that was an offensive foul. And I said, yes, it was, and I got it. my one and only offensive foul for the entire weekend. He was
fun, though.
He was fun.
Very fun.
He was very fun. And
then we found out that he actually runs a league. He's in Chicago, and he runs another league, not the NWBA, which we'll talk about later.
Right, but it's more for those players that are able-bodied or not considered for the NWBA.
Because NWBA, you have to have certain extremities that you can't use whatsoever.
Right.
They have really
stringent
parameters, and his stories. We may be able to get him on as a guest.
Oh, I'd love to.
He'd be very interesting and because the WNBA. Is that it? The NWBA. I always get those two mixed up. The NWBA is a very interesting and very strong organization, and it's fun. But you were talking, I want you to go a little bit into the difference between how we get treated with the NWBA and able-bodied.
I mean, it was just, it was night and day. I mean, we got up there. Everybody was like, man, we're so glad that you're here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your time to come up here and do this.
Absolutely.
The pay was much better.
Yeah.
They fed us.
Very well.
They took care of our housing.
Yep. Hotel was nice.
It was very nice. We had full breakfast in the morning.
Yep.
I mean, it was really nice.
And even when you saw the people at the breakfast buffet in the morning at the hotel,
Yep.
all of them knew us from officiating. They were all kind and cordial, and I mean, they were joking. It was just it's kind of like the homeschooling community.
Yes.
The homeschooling community, when we do basketball and volleyball with them, they're a whole different level higher.
Or even the Amish, though.
Oh, yeah, the Amish are very accommodating as well.
Yeah.
There's certain groups you can work with as an official, and you just know you're going to get treated as a human being.
Yep.
But when it's time for you to be professional, being an official, they're competitive. Amish, I mean, I've had a guy fuss at me, and one guy cursed at me one time, and I looked at him, and he goes, my bad. And he walks away. Because they realize you can be competitive, but at the same time, you don't have to be a butthole about it. Yeah, you don't have to be disrespectfully, It's so, I wanted you to go into that because I we talked about that a little bit. And you really enjoyed how you got treated.
I very much so enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much that I knew that I was going in not knowing all of the rules because it was literally my first time, ever doing it. And so, yes, I had to go through the rule book and I had to kind of look through some things, but I really did, if I have to be honest, I really did not prep myself like I should have. So when I got there and I was going through it and you were like, you can do able body, you can do this. And I'm like, yeah, but it's different because they're in a wheelchair and then the whole time I'm running, I'm like, are they going to run me over?
Yeah, if you're in the way, they will.
So believe me, I made sure I stayed out of the way.
And those wheelchairs, I've gotten hit by one of those things. They hurt.
They move so fast.
And they hit your ankle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they hit your lower leg. So it can hurt you.
So I had a lot of things going through my head, and I was like, I just want to do a good job, so I mean, ultimately I did a decent job.
You got invited back. They want you to come to the next tournament.
And in fact, it was funny because the guy that led it, when I told him at the end that this was the first time I'd ever done it, he was shocked. He was like, really?
Oh, but come on now. Look back at when you first got into officiating. We're going to talk about that too, because when you first came into officiating, tell the story. Come on, tell it.
You mean the second time I came back?
Tell both.
Well, I'm not going to talk about the first time, but the second time.
Oh, you're going to talk about the first one because that's important to transition to the second one.
Well, the second time I came into officiating, I had been going to plenty of games watching you and your partners officiate.
Right.
And so, I mean, I would sit up in the stands and listen to all the fans talk about you and your partners.
And they said wonderful things about me.
About how you didn't see that or,
Blind ref.
Blind ref. I should have been out there with a walker stick.
They thought you lost it. But I would go into the locker room prior to the game and listen to the pregame. I'd go in during halftime, listen to the halftime talk, and then I would go in at after the game for the post talk. And so it was really, to me, that was like so beneficial, and I did that for quite a few years. And so then when I decided to get into officiating for my second time, I was more prepared, I think, for everything that came with it. But the first time I went out and did a game, it was kind of I wasn't getting paid. I was out there getting trained. And the guy that was watching me, he comes up to me during a timeout or a halftime or whatever, and he goes, are you sure you've never reffed before? He goes, this is your first time reffing? And I said, yeah, first time on the court. And he goes, man, your mechanics are so good. And I was like, well, thank you. Because I don't know if it was one of those things that was just like, because I watched you do it so much that it became more natural. But you also worked with me on it as well. I mean, that was, part of it, telling me to get my arm straight up, telling me how to, make certain foul calls, what is a hold, what is a push, those type of things. So,
but now you got to go back and you got to talk about the first time because we're all curious. What happened? See, what happened? Everybody's whispering, what happened?
So the first time I got involved with officiating was back in 1997. I was still very young, very impressionable. Still not really sure of myself, and so the guy that recruited me, we can talk about Clark, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Clark is awesome.
Clark Hamilton. That's
Clark
the
Hamilton.
man.
He is the man.
Clark.
Okay, anyway. So
Moving on.
not only did he recruit me, he recruited you.
Absolutely. Taught me everything I knew.
And
but not everything he knew.
Right. Because he knew a lot. But awesome guy. So glad that he, talked me into getting into it. I wish that he had talked me into staying into it, staying in with it, because
the first time.
The first time. But I allowed working with another guy that I had to work with. We will not mention his name because I can't think of it anyway right now. But I had to work this middle school game with him, and as a matter of fact, we were just talking about it yesterday. So I'm on one side of the court, and he's on the opposite side of the court because it was two-person. The ball goes out of bounds. I call it out of bounds on that team and giving it to the other team. He comes from way over here because the fans and the coaches didn't like my call, and comes over and just overrules me in front of everybody, like blatantly trying to humiliate me. And I was just like, well, if working with officials like you is what I'm into, I don't want to do that. And so it was very, again, I was young. I wasn't really sure of myself. And so I knew I had that call right, though. But I was like, okay, well, whatever. He's the senior official. We'll go with whatever he says. So I made it through the rest of that game. But obviously I didn't need to be there because if he could see my line, then why was I there?
Now, one question I have, and I'm playing devil's advocate. Why do you say he was the senior official?
Because I was brand new. Because I knew he'd been officiating longer than me.
Okay.
I mean, I had seen him at numerous games.
Okay.
Not that I thought he was a good official. I never really thought he was ever a very good official, even when before I got into officiating, because I would go and watch some of your games, because he officiated at the old Fort Y. And I was just like, he is terrible. Because half the time, he's not even watching the game. Like, he's over there talking to people in the stands. I was like, oh. But
so, Sydney, talk to us about, you coming into officiating. And there's a reason I'm talking about all this. It has a lot to do with mentoring. But
Okay, what do you mean me coming into officiating?
Well, talk to us about when you came in and why. I've always been curious as to why you got into officiating.
I can tell you why.
No, I want to hear from
everybody.
her.
No, let me tell you why. Because of her mother. Her mother made her get into officiating.
Forced me.
Forced her into
I was
officiating.
handcuffed to a table until I finished taking that test.
I don't understand. There's so much love between you two. I can't understand why she would ever have to force you to do anything. You look like twins. Okay, this is
moving
radio.
on.
You have to talk.
So
I've never seen her this like silent before.
No, yeah. So initially, I did obviously get in because of
She really
my
made
mother.
you?
Yeah, she made me. How did you not know about
I don't
that?
really
I think
remember
I
it that
kind of
way,
remember, but
Yeah, she
I
made
think I
me.
just strongly encouraged.
You didn't want to do it?
No.
Why
So
not?
it was. I was being lazy. I had just gotten back from college, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And she was like, "Well, you need to make money." And so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do to make money. And she goes, "Well, ref until you figure it out." And I was like, "No."
This was basketball?
Yeah.
I remember you guys kind of clashing on that, but I didn't know that there was this much.
Yeah. She was like, "You got to get
I
your
don't-
license.
I
You
don't
need to make
remember all
money."
that, but-
And I was like, "No, I don't want to." And she was like, "Well, find another way to make money." And I didn't find another way to make money. So she said, "All right, well, get your license then." And forced me to take the test. And so I took the test.
You took the test and you actually passed it? Because I was thinking if you were really rebelling, you would have failed it.
Well, it was, no. So it was, I had to go through the class.
No, wait a minute. No, because you
And I
went through the
failed the
class when
first
you were
test.
18. You came through the class when you were
Yeah.
18.
Because I remember Janai, you and Janai were in the same
Yeah.
class. When he
Then-
was in college.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and Janai were in the same class.
Then you left for the military and college,
So I
and
had
then
to
you
get
came
my license
back,
renewed.
yeah.
and you had to renew your. And then that's when I made
That's
you renew
right.
it.
Yeah.
No, because when you
Okay,
renewed
okay,
it,
okay.
didn't she have to renew it late and pay extra fee?
She was supposed to, but I was.
didn't.
Yeah, we
got
because
around it.
because of the fact that she was gone for the military.
Military, so
the
they waived
IHSAA
it.
waived
Okay.
the late fee.
Yeah, I do remember it
So.
now.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I paid your fee.
Oh, we probably did because she was
Probably.
broke.
Broke as a joke.
Of course. Yeah, we
Yeah,
paid
broke.
it. Broke.
But yeah, so when I went through the class, I didn't want anything to do with actually reffing, though.
Because your parents were into it.
Yeah.
And she made you.
And I was forced to. Yeah.
You're going to live that for the rest of your life. She forced me.
She forced me.
Did I force you to go through the volleyball class too?
No, but you forced me to get my license in
Yes,
volleyball.
I did. And look how well that has worked out for you.
She'll never admit it. She know it has, but she'll never admit it. Never.
Admit what?
See? It doesn't exist.
How much money did you make this past weekend, Friday, Saturday, from volleyball?
I'm sorry. I thought we weren't supposed to bring up specific dates.
I said this past weekend. I didn't say what weekend, right?
Yeah,
We'll
but
edit
he
that
could
out.
release this on a Saturday, and then
We'll
he'd say-
edit that out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
Get it
so
right.
you get involved, and she made you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's been 4 years
Mm-hmm.
about. And at
This
what?
is the start of the 5th season.
So you know what? And you and I've never talked about this. This is serious. I've always wondered at what point, if you can remember, did you go from I hate this and I don't want to do it, and she's making me, to oh man, this is awesome.
I don't know at what point it went from this is fun to oh man, I want to make this my career.
Oh,
But
okay.
I do know I don't remember specifically what my first game was, but I do kind of remember when I got to ref a tournament at Spiece, when they were still having gym rats and stuff, and I went over there, and I think it was like my first or second tournament, and I had I think 14 games in one day.
Wow.
I remember
And-
those days.
Yeah.
You
and
remember
then,
about what they were paying per game then? Was it 20?
22? I
Yeah, I
think.
think it was 22.
Yeah.
Probably.
So I think it was a 3-day tournament, and I had 14 games on the first day, and like I think 12 and then 10 or something like that, like double digits for all 3 days. And
They actually gave you that many games, and they knew that you were green?
well,
It was probably
I
one of the
mean,
bigger tournaments.
It was definitely a bigger tournament, but I wasn't entirely green because I was your guys' kid. So it was kind of like
So this is about what you made.
One day.
Oh, that's one day, $300 in one day.
Yeah, because she just said
$22 times
14,
14.
22.
You did 14 games in one day?
Yeah,
Right.
Good Lord.
I know.
And you still liked it after that?
So
You liked the money is what it was.
actually, no, it was
No, it was probably the running.
it was one of my first games of the tournament,
Good job, Mom.
and a coach came up to me, and I just remember him saying, so how many games do you have left today? And I told him, and he goes, whew, that's a lot. And I was like, yeah, it'll be okay. And he goes, you get paid well? And I said, no. And he goes, well, why are you doing it? And I was like, I actually kind of like it. And that was kind of the first moment. I mean, it was early in my career, but it was kind of the first moments where I realized I actually did like the running aspect of it. Like, I remember in high school I hated running, but I think I just didn't have the right reason to run.
So you hated running even when you played in high school and college?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, I hated running.
Probably not during the game, though.
Not during, I mean, obviously not during the, obviously I didn't want to run during the game, but I mean, it's a necessary part of the game.
Right.
So, like,
So
you have to.
even in practices you didn't like
Oh,
them?
I hated running in practice because
Yeah.
I wasn't in shape. I mean, I'm in better shape now than I was when I played in college, but it
Excuse me.
was just,
How does one get in shape for running if one doesn't run?
I mean, let's be real. Who really likes to run just to be running? I mean, unless you're
okay, but to be
cross-country
honest,
or-
like, over time, people have realized that sports does need you to be in shape, but like when you're, 6-7 years ago, it wasn't as intense to be in shape in the off season as it is now because they've got full year running. So, like it was always the coming back from summer break and then you had to get back in shape, and the coaches would always make you run more at the beginning of the season and stuff. I was chubby in high school. I didn't want to run. Like, they tried to get me on the track team and just for discus and javelin
Shot
and
put.
shot put, yeah. And I was like, no. And they go, why not? because you have to run in practice. That was my answer. And they go, no, you won't have to run. I said, no. Once I'm on the team,
You guys got
I
me.
have no choice. I will not be joining the team for the sole reason that I will have to run. It was bad. I mean, like, but it was just because I never had a reason to enjoy running. It was always for something. It was always, for basketball, run for practice, run to get in shape, and now I get to choose to run because I want to. It's more of, it's for my job, yes, but I enjoy my job, so in return I enjoy running.
And you like the way it makes you look when you're out there running. You get your little physical bod look.
Being able to keep up with the players. I think that's my thing. Is I'll race like the TBL guys. Like when they get a fast break, I'm out, and I'm like I could beat him down the court. I'm trying to like race him to the baseline, and then he gets fouled, and I have to stop and call it or whatever,
And
but
you're upset because you have to stop.
I am, yeah, because I didn't get to see the
except
continuous.
the one game where you said they ran for like the first 12 minutes and you were like dying.
My gosh, they ran.
So you weren't ready for all that, huh?
Oh, they ran until like 5 minutes, and then finally there was a dead ball, and we could stop for a timeout.
And your partners, how'd they feel about it?
Oh man, I had 2 old white guy partners, and they weren't able to talk during the timeout. Like they were just trying to like catch their breath and just breathe and just take water.
Wow.
And I was just like, yeah, I'm tired, but this is really fun. But oh my God, that was exhausting. Oh.
So you got into it. She made you.
She made me.
Then you've discovered that you actually liked it when you were talking to a coach about it, and it hit you. I kind of like this.
Right.
So at what point did you realize that this could actually be a career for you?
I think at the JUCO tournament.
Oh, tell us about the JUCO. you want to tell us about that.
There was a JUCO tournament at the old Taylor building, currently called the Summit here in Fort Wayne. And it was a all-day, 3-day weekend tournament. Low-level college players, athletic, fast, just like Indiana Tech or,
just jumping out of the gym.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. They were insanely fast. But I reffed like 8 games per day for that tournament.
Now, I just got to jump in because you said low level. As soon as you said that, I thought, that is some serious running. Talking about low level, you mean they're not compared to a
D1?
A D1.
They're
like
not. I would give them like NAIA or D3 level players.
But people don't
actually,
understand.
maybe a few of them were D2 players because they were getting recruited. It was a big tournament solely for recruiting those players to go to college, because they were in their off gap year. Trying to get better, to get found by a college to play.
What was the tallest player? How tall was he?
Oh my gosh, he was the one who I had to stand there and look at and tell him not to call me a B word.
And how tall was he?
He's the first time I was called a B word.
Was he
he
7
was
foot?
like 6'11", I think, or 7 foot. Yeah, he was tall. He was one of the tallest players I've ever
I remember
read.
there was at least 2 or 3 of them in there who were like 6'7".
Yeah, no, but the tallest one, like 6'11", 7 foot, he was the one that I had to stand there and like look up at like a tree, like say one more thing.
Did he say it?
No, he didn't, because it was funny. His teammates were like, "Yo, stop! She'll tee you." Because it was funny. He threw me off guard. I'd never been called the B word on the court before. I was still early, and so he was like, "Yeah, I called a foul on him." And I was like, did he just call me? It took a second to process, and then I was like, I think he did. And so I stopped, and I was holding the ball, and he was, lining up for the free throw. So he's standing there at the bottom box, and I'm standing right next to him, and I'm just looking up at him.
Like,
and I'm
he's
like,
tall.
I did. That did run through my mind. I'm thinking, this man's too tall. He's not even gonna see me. He's just gonna look over me.
Just take
and
his
pretend like he
kneecaps
doesn't
out.
even know I'm
Just
there.
take the kneecaps
really
out.
though. And so I stopped and I looked at him, and I was like, "Do you have anything else you need to say?" And he went to say something, and his teammate goes, "Yo, stop, she'll tee you." And then he goes, "Nah," and just turned away. And I was like, okay. I don't feel good about that, but we'll take it. We'll move on.
Oh, you wanted him to say something?
I didn't want him to say anything, but it just didn't go well. Like, I didn't think I handled it well, and, I just didn't think I handled it as well as I could have. I just wasn't prepared. It was my first time.
Well, we've talked about some fun. We've talked about some serious, and now we want to transition into, and, down the line, we got to teach you guys. We're doing, ref time is all about first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. It's pretty cool. You came up with that idea. I have to give you something on that.
Thank you.
So what's third quarter? Is that serious stuff? Where did you do that?
The third quarter was serious, yeah. But, we haven't talked about rules, so we can talk a little bit about some of the rule changes or points of emphasis. Actually, this is rule changes for the 22-23 high school, NFHS, National Federation of High School.
Now, are we just talking basketball?
We are just talking basketball because we're actually transitioning from volleyball into basketball. So volleyball season, sectionals actually start tomorrow night. Okay. So,
did you get a sectionals?
She got a section.
Yes. I wasn't supposed to say tomorrow night, but sectionals start this week. So, yes, I did get a sectional. So I'm excited about that. I'll be looking forward to working with my partner. So we'll have a good time. But for basketball rule changes this year, there's nothing like major going on this year.
Now, you know what? I got to say this because, and this is the thing about rules, and I know coaches feel this way, and maybe one day we can get Adam on and he can give us his opinion because he's coached. How important are rules? To us, rules are pretty much everything. But how important are they to players and coaches?
Well, it depends. Is it for them or against them? So
that's a good point.
I mean, I think rules are literally set in place for the fairness of each team having an equal opportunity to win, as well as the fact of keeping players and officials safe. I mean, it's all about
I think just like some games that we've reffed where we have a team that is obviously more skilled than another team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, the non-skilled team, I'm going to be less prone to call a bunch of travels on.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas
or double dribble because they don't know what they're doing.
They have no clue. I mean, we had a girl get the ball and she took off running, and I was like, ugh,
I gotta call that.
I gotta call that.
That was too ugly.
Even though she wasn't real skilled, but she's skilled enough that, when she did have the ball, she really did kind of know what she was doing. So when she got the ball, she was in a crowd and she was just trying to get out. And so I was like, I got to call that travel. And, at that age level, I mean, they were 5th and 6th graders. So it's like,
you can let them get away with a little bit
You're
more.
going to let them get away with picking up their pivot feet and moving their feet around a little bit, but not running down the court. You got to dribble. But
and, that's the thing about officiating is you have to, I think the more skilled you become, the more experienced you become, what you can let go and what you have to call. You kind of get and then you can pick up early on the skill level of these teams.
Right.
And you can also pick up real early on the skill level of the coaches and the fans.
Yeah.
I most certainly made a wrong call yesterday. Not yesterday. I most certainly made a wrong call the other day.
Yeah, you admit to it. Did you admit to it then?
So here's the story.
Uh-oh.
That's all you get.
They were 8th grade boys. One team is clearly outskilling the other. I mean, the one team, it's like a 30-point difference. And the one team is just atrocious. They look like a bunch of chickens with their heads cut off. But they have one goal, and that goal is the ball. I mean,
that's
just
scary.
Chaos.
So everybody goes to the ball.
Oh my God, it was so out of control. And these kids were, it was adorable. But one kid, just completely out of control, tries to steal the ball or whatever. Or no, he got the rebound and he was going to go towards his basket, which was on the other end. And the other team starts, pressuring him in the back court. And then knocks the ball out. Well, he starts chasing after the ball, and the one defender touched it real quick, but then he ended up kicking it out of bounds trying to pick it up. And call it point. I'm thinking I'm pointing for the team that was defending at the time, which would be the far more superior team, and instead pointed the wrong way. And so they're going to take the ball out, and I looked at him and I looked at them, and I mean, it was on the end of the crowd, so everybody saw who it went out on. And I handed him the ball and we win. I was like, it's not going to make a difference in the game. But I felt so bad because I was like, everybody saw that. I mean, it was
But at the same
clear
time,
as day,
again, sometimes, I mean, I've been known to, and this is something that he's always taught me, is even though the ball may go out on this player, maybe there was a foul. So instead of me calling the foul, I give the ball back to that
team. The team.
Yeah.
And that saves us from having to go report. It saves us from giving a player another foul.
From having to stop the game for a longer period.
And if it was a hard foul, you get the ball back and play quicker, so people will not be belaboring the fact, man, he just hit me that hard. You give him the ball, we get ready to play again. Right. He's got to move on.
They can't react.
He's got to move on. Yeah.
So there's just little things you learn the more you're out there, the more you blow. And you learn how to do what they call good game management. I think that's so the rules.
That's the biggest thing about
good game management.
Yeah.
And the reason I brought that up about the rules is I just thought about it as we're talking about the rules. A lot of people don't care about the rules. Coaches, fans, players, they don't care about the rules
until it's
right.
For their
but
team.
then they don't know the rules, so caring about it at that time doesn't do them any good. They just want what they want.
Well, they think it does them good because they're yelling about something, though.
But the thing is, if you don't get the ball back, if I don't give you the ball, then my thing is, what did you learn? Because you didn't.
They're not trying to learn.
So you're gonna yell at me again next time, and I'm not gonna give you the ball again.
Welcome to basketball.
Okay, so
Did
let's
you just
talk
say
about.
Welcome to basketball to me. I better.
So let's talk about the rule changes for 22-23 year. There's literally one rule change, and that is rule number 354, letter D, as in dog. It allows hair adornment. This is last year, so it probably won't be in there. Allows hair adornments provided they are securely fastened close to the head and do not present an increased risk to the player, teammates, or opponents.
So that means that I can't wear hair adornments?
Well, as long as it's close to your head.
I can glue it to your head.
We can put some stickies on your head.
Don't be messing with my afro.
The rationale behind this, it creates inclusivity of hairstyles while maintaining that the risk of injury to the athlete, teammates, and opponents should not be compromised. So
now they're legally allowing weave.
Basically.
Okay.
Yes, as long as it is securely fastened to their head.
So this has nothing to do with the jewelry rule.
Most would hope
this has nothing to do with the jewelry rule.
Your
We're talking about
topic.
22-23 rules.
Are they allowing jewelry?
No.
Oh, okay.
Here's the
not in her head.
Don't get her started.
Here are the major editorial changes, and that is the shot clock, but that's based on state association adoption guidelines, which Indiana has not adopted.
I think we'll be getting a shot clock
we
soon,
have
though.
to soon.
Yes,
a lot of states around us are.
Yeah.
And then our points of emphasis for the year, sportsmanship. That's number one. Number two, we can go on and on about that, so we're going to save that for a whole nother topic, another segment. Number two is reducing illegal contact via hand checks, post play, off ball play. And then the number 3 point of emphasis is pregame meeting. So
I don't agree with eliminating hand checks.
It's not eliminating it.
It's eliminating.
No, but it's just saying that we need to
emphasize
and focus on it more. But I
as
don't
a player,
think hand check is really like
I didn't
a big deal.
As a player, I'm like, well, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But as officials, they want us to emphasize it. Why?
Well,
it goes back
I think
to game
the main
management.
thing is the two hands.
Yeah, two hands.
It's
but
the
they're
two
talking.
hands
I mean,
and
a
the
hand check is
continuation.
one hand.
Yeah, but
as long as you don't keep the hand on the player.
And that's what they're talking about.
Well, you're guiding. If I got a hand on the player, the offensive player, I'm actually guiding him, and I'm keeping him from going where he wants to go.
You could be guiding them, and I think that's where discretion comes into play.
But that'll come to view once they try to make a move. You can tell if they're held off or not.
Right.
But I don't
the
understand
advantage,
why.
disadvantage.
Yeah,
and that's what really.
But I think
you
at
need
that
to be
moment
looking
is
at.
when you should call the foul, not when they touch them
And-
consistently. You know.
Yeah.
And again, I think it depends on which officials you ask. And see, you're going towards a pro. You want to go NBA. Well, there's a lot of high school officials who are going to see it differently. And on your level, the TBL, the basketball league, a hand on the hip doesn't really affect those players. They're too strong and agile.
Actually, we have to focus on hand checks too.
You still don't agree with it on that level?
No.
So do you?
I mean, it's
do you
physical.
focus on handshakes?
No. As physical as, I mean, I'll call it if it affects the player, if he loses the ball, if he can't go where he wants to go.
You notice that was a politically correct answer she just gave us.
And it was the correct answer.
But in any other situation,
I'm coming to your games and I'm going to evaluate you from
You
now
go
on.
right on
I'm
ahead
going
and
to sit there and I'm going to
evaluate.
write down notes.
You're going to write down nothing.
Okay, so the third point of emphasis, stop interrupting me, is pregame meeting.
Stop
That is
interrupting her.
addressing illegal uniforms, equipment, and apparel. So,
Are we going to talk about jewelry today?
no, we're not because our time is up.
All right. So join us for another segment of Ref Time,
Ref time.
powered by.
RTS.
You thought you were going to get out of it, didn't you?
I did. I tried to.
And we look forward to having you guys join us again. And thank you for coming on the show with us, Sydney. It was good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It
Yeah.
was fun talking about
And in case
everybody
everybody-
behind their backs.
In case everybody didn't figure it out, Sydney is our daughter.
I
So.
am not blood related to them.
She is
You looked
fully
into the
blood.
camera and squinted and told that lie. But we got to have you back. This is fun. I know there's a lot of things as your career
Soars.
soars,
Takes off.
takes off. There's a lot of things that I'm sure that, we can learn and you can share with a lot of folks. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again for listening to Ref Time, powered by RefTrainingschool.com and Hoosier3on3.com. Produced by Coraggio Media, Ref Time is recorded in WELT Studios in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne, Indiana.
To join RTS, visit reftrainingschool.com. Please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Until next time.